We've got Anthony here, our Una CEO and president, the man, the myth, the legend. And today we're asking him about what one thing would he tell businesses about their indirect spend.
One thing, if I had to pick one thing, I would say that unplanned spend around indirect spend, if not looked at, managed from a year-over-year basis, can really start to add up. And what I've seen a lot of small, medium, and even larger businesses do, just as we've worked in this space and worked with businesses that have 5 to 10 employees and 10,000 plus employees, is that there's variances of opinions on all matters and all different categories. And every business has different needs. And so what I would encourage businesses to look at is to start, the Pareto principle applies to everything. What is it that you can do that'll impact 80% of your spend? So for example, if you have a large, let's say shipping, FedEx, UPS, what have you, why don't you look at that? If that's impacting 80% of your spend, or you're spending a lot on hotels, you're spending a lot on shipping and off supplies, focus on those 3 categories. And then I think the other piece as a GPO expert or working in this space is just the lack of understanding or the knowledge that as a business, no matter your size, that you have access to something that you couldn't get on your own. A lot of the categories that you see in the GPO space, we're seeing millions and millions and millions of spend that we're able to negotiate and bring value to. So I think there's an educational piece. Find out more about it, but then understand the importance of how effective you can be if this unplanned spend is looked at. And what we're really seeing in the marketplace when companies come to us, it's after the fact. It's very reactive. It's, oh gosh, I have 20, 30, 50 locations and I don't have a resource tied to this. I don't have a procurement expert or a buyer or a sourcing manager, what have you. Whatever the title is, they go and find that individual. And usually we get a lead from there, or we get a phone call, or we get to contact us. And a lot of the time it's just having a conversation saying, well, what are you doing now? What access to the data do you have? Do you have decentralized purchasing? Do you have any category management today? Are you looking at different suppliers? Are you trying to consolidate? Do you have any other resources other than yourself? Multiple answers and all these different things. So it's hard for me to just pick one. But if I had to come back, it's where are you today and where would you like to go? And how, if you made a couple moves in a few different categories, how could you have the greatest impact?
So it sounds like the mistakes you're seeing are that people are not thinking out of the box in terms of solutions. They're being reactive, they're not being proactive, or maybe they're trying to boil the ocean, do a little bit of save here and there, but not actually something that would be the most bang for their buck.
Sure, and think about it as a small business, medium, larger business. They didn't become larger businesses because they saved their way to building great value. They're providing value for their customers. And so I think what I think about most is how can you bring it all back and try to look at and try not to bite off more than you can chew, okay? And then if you only have 1 or 2 resources, or you even have a department, obviously as a large organization, most of the large organizations, as we've discussed, are looking at it by category and category by category. And they might have 1 or 2 people or a floor dedicated to that category, whether it's facilities, whether it's shipping, whether it's travel, office supplies, telecommunications, you name it. And so what I would encourage businesses of all shapes and sizes is don't forget, is try to look at ways to be less reactive, but then when it is time to look at your unplanned spend or indirect spend comes up, is to look at all the resources that are available in the marketplace. And I think it goes beyond just a GPO and looking at, where are your current rates and have you put things out to bid, and what is your RFP process? I mean, there's a lot of different things where a lot of our conversations on the front end as a GPO in the business space, working in the community, that we just become a resource. Maybe we talk about, well, if you're working with Office Depot, have you thought about this? Or if you're working with whatever your office supplier might be, or your shipping supplier, or your travel supplier, or your facilities, it's just even asking the questions. So that's a lot of what we try to do is be an influencer and being a resource to say, these are the questions to ask your distributors and manufacturers. And if you're not getting answers to these questions, you should be, no matter your size of your company.
It sounds like a lot of businesses have more options than they even realize in terms of contracts, ways to save, just things they may never even thought of.
Sure. I think there's opportunity cost in everything you do. So it's, well, if I'm going to spend time on that, what's the ROI? And is it worth it? Why? And a lot of what we can bring to the table, and I hate to have it be about Una, is it's the L word, and it's leverage. And that's what a lot of businesses, even if they're doing millions in spend in multiple categories, don't have the leverage against these national brands that are doing billions in sales. And I've named all the categories to your point.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony.
You're welcome.